All right, welcome everyone. I'm Wes Warren. I'm here with Greg Stanley, and today's topic is the ideal exam time, specifically new patient exam, comprehensive new patient exam time. This varies, and I've seen all kinds of versions of this over my life in dentistry, and I'm sure you've seen even more variations going back before that, Greg. Doctors have specific reasons why they want to do different lengths of exams. Some it's very short. I've seen it as Greg, I've seen it as little as 3 to 5 minutes. I've seen it as long as where it takes days, where they got to come back and do study models and dim the lights and bring them back. And I've seen the three visit exam. This is for a new patient. And so there's been wide variations, but there's still wide variations of this now. And the question I'd pose to you, Greg, is which is the most effective? What it seems to get it just right. And what have you seen? What are the different types of exam types and lengths have you seen?
Well, you know what? If you're just trying to get people into the office through marketing, maybe a discounted cleaning or something like that, the thought that you'll keep them in the chair 1.5 or 2 hours, with cancer screenings and all of the all of the things you can do, the wax ups, et cetera, the thought that that will make somebody say, whoa, I came in for a clean or a crown, and I'm going to spend 35 or $45,000 on my teeth. We have seen that tried. Believe it or not, that was actually a fad at one time, and it still carries over to this day. Unless you've brought people in from marketing looking for a big case, which is not easy to do and it's not inexpensive. Unless you bring in the right kind of person, more time does very little good. Somebody who comes in thinking, I might need a redo of my mouth. I might need to spend like my neighbor did, 40,000 or 50,000. That person would probably feel cheated if you did a 3 to 5 minute exam. So it's who you brought in, what they came in for. Can I tell you, let me interpret something for you. Because a lot of times patients speak their own language, just like we do. When a patient says, who came in for a cleaning or toothache or whatever, when a patient says, wow, I've never had an exam like that in my life, can I interpret that? That means I'm never coming back. That means I'm going to warn as many people off as I can, because they, in their own way, they seem to see through that. That we get them in the chair and just start peeping and muttering and do all this science. We try to science them into treatment. Unless you reached out for them, like I say, with the marketing message and brought in that type of patient, it's probably going to have just the opposite effect of what you might have heard.
I think that's a good point about the marketing message kind of dictates, yeah, that approach where you might do study models. You might, so if you're bringing in these people that are specifically looking for a makeover of some kind, having another step, bringing, where they come back, or certainly a long first new patient encounter with the doctor is relevant, So we see kind of the all on four supported denture patient. It's not uncommon where the doctor's spending between 20 and 30, 40 minutes, even in some cases, with those people. And I think that's justified. And that's not what we're talking about here, when what I tend to see where I just kind of go like, whoa, Greg, is a regular comprehensive exam. They found you online and you're spending 30, 40 minutes with them, 25 minutes, trying to woo them in some way. Doesn't seem to work. I've never seen retention increase because that's where you're looking for patients that retain and actually do their dentistry. I've not seen that bear out in statistics, that having a much longer time with the patient yields some significant amount.
Some of our doctors have kind of learned this, some the hard way, some figured it out another way. But basically, when a patient presents themselves and you say, now you're here for tooth number whatever, and you look at it, yeah, I got a problem, and you go ahead and you take care of the problem. Then ask the patient, I see some other things I'd like to talk to you about. Maybe we can do that, after I get this done. Patients tend to respect your opinion if you'll first meet them where they present. In other words, I need this, okay, give them that, and then you can talk about other things. And then if you can't show attitude about it. If they say, no, I'm not interested in that, and you get real upset, they can sense that, and that's probably not a good outcome. Can I tell you what I see behind some of this sometimes, Wes? Some of our doctors, 25, 30 years in practice, have grown weary of the minimal approach people take to caring for their mouth. They grow weary of it. And they want a patient who cares, a patient who wants to do something with their mouth, like they want to do with their body at the gym, And because they've grown weary, and another word might be intolerant of people, how they are, who they are, and start doing long exams and pitching big, huge cases to people that really weren't looking for that. It's a point of frustration. Now, the survivors of this approach are the people who figure out what they're doing wrong and start at least doing one tooth, like, well, here's where we're going to start. And the next time you see them, to cement the crown or whatever, you're dealing with a patient at that point. You're dealing with someone that no longer classifies as a prospect. This is a patient. They've bought something. They've written a check. You might do better showing something to somebody when you're seeding that one crown, if they came in from marketing for something on a discount. It's kind of the golden rule. How would we want to be treated? A couple things come up. One is, I see the weary doctor saying this. When a patient says, what's wrong? What caused this? Or why do I need all this that you're talking about? In other words, start spitting out questions. And the doctor says, just hold your questions. We're going to put this all together. Like you said, Wes, we're going to dim the lights. We're going to do a big station. That's not how we would want to be treated. That's how we might have come to believe we can sell people more than they're ready to hear about. So, a couple of thoughts. Because you're weary of being a bread and butter dentist does not mean you're ready to step up to a bigger league. There's certain marketing that's involved and cost. I mean, some of our doctors who are doing this, achieving bigger cases through the door, all on fours, et cetera, there's a marketing cost. It might be $1,000 or $2,000 or more per case. It's stacked onto the other cost of delivering those kind of services. So when you're ready to do that, we should talk. We can talk about people who do that. I'm always amazed what goes into these bigger case offices. Some of them we work with, that's all they have. It's just one after another. And they're located in places that, have noticeably more disposable income. They're wealthy areas. The marketing, the referrals, et cetera, et cetera. There's just so much that goes into it. You got to be ready for it. So don't let your being weary of being a dentist drive you into the posture of trying to change the regular patients that are coming in the office.
Kind of an unconsumer approach. I'd like to talk about what I think is kind of the ideal sweet spot, So we've sampled thousands of dentists at this point, and I've seen, people change their approach, and you kind of get to see what's effective and what's not. And it seems to me spending around 10 to 15 minutes per new patient seems to be the sweet spot. where you're able to build a relationship, you're able to get a retention. The patient views you as, there's some bonding with the doctor. They view you as their doctor now. They retain in the practice, and you can get a very healthy case average. And spending more time, I found actually it decreases case acceptance. That spending more time and talking the patient to death actually works against you. You lose validity, I guess, when yeah, there's a saying in the sales world, you can over talk a sale to death. You can actually talk people out of it. I believe that's kind of what happens, is that you lose validity and it works against you.
At some point, it becomes clear you want it more than they do.
And that's a terrible place to be, obviously. And doctors will say, well, what if somebody wants something bigger? Well, if you're not that kind of practice and that happens once a month, or once every 2 months, these bigger cases that do pop up, schedule them back if you need to. If you can't squeeze it in 15 minutes, and they're showing real interest in all on four or something like that, I would schedule them back. It's no sense in wrecking your business model, meaning where 90% or 95% of your revenue is driven by, let's say, quote unquote, bread and butter dentistry. To wreck that whole business model for that one patient a month that does actually ask is not wise. It would be better to actually have a separate approach where you schedule them back. Sounds like you're very interested. I'd love to talk to you about this. We can do a lot of amazing things, and bring them back and schedule them for that. That's the best approach. I run into practices, Greg, that have that model where it's both. It's bread and butter, but they also have the marketing component where they are driving in a lot of leads. And like you said, a lot of practice when I say leads, a lot of leads for the high-end cases. It seems like it's one or the other. Most of the practices we go into, it's like the one drowns out the other. Okay. So when all of a sudden you get the marketing working, all of a sudden your business model or your approach with regular dentistry starts to fade away, and that's all you can almost deal with these kind of larger cases. And I believe it's because of this two ways of doing the exam. It's different. What's important here is that they identify that patient the best they can over the phone. The patient that's truly interested in these larger procedures. So I would definitely have big time phone training on how to identify these people, and so that you are scheduling more time with the doctor, so that you don't run into this problem where you really do need to spend more time with them.
When we do that, when we spend all this time with them and they do go home because they need to go home and talk to their spouse, they got to go home and sell their spouse. So if we don't equip them with the tools, the pictures, the films, whatever, to do that, that's a dead on arrival situation. One of the avenues people think, you come to this crossroads in the woods, there's all these different paths, which one leads where I want to go? And so they try the long exam path, and they end up worse off than they started. There's another one. People can't argue with science and equipment. And so they'll buy $100,000 or $200,000 piece of equipment to sell people on something because it has 3D whammadine, pictures or whatever it is. It's going to sell them that they need to become this incredible patient. That probably isn't the path either. The best path, I believe, forward is to start with what the patient came for and deliver it with relish. I mean, you're gonna give it to them, make them feel good about it, and then you or a staff person introduces the idea. See this? You could look like this, by the way, and that can start to work on them, and they go, yeah, I think I want to do that, or let me learn more about that. What does that cost, or whatever? I would say start with where people are at. So, like you said, Wes, somebody on the phone plumb the depths, find out what this person is looking for, and schedule accordingly. It's 20 minutes for an exam. Perfect. Get them in, make them a happy patient. You know, it's funny what you said a minute ago about the practice that once or twice a month, it's like they're fishermen pulling up these little mullet or little bait fish, all the time, and they're feeding their family. But once in a while, they get this 300-pound tuna on, and they go, "That's what I need to go for, is the big fish." And so they change their bait and everything and go for that. Don't let that fool you. When you do a good job for a lot of people, you will attract one or two nice cases a month if you know how to handle them, if you can deliver the service, if you can do all of that. Don't let it corrupt your brain to where you think, all I want is this type of person. Wes, I've seen people who literally told me on the phone, there was these two doctors and they kind of palled around together, and they got some good one or two good cases, that kind of the gratuitous one or two good cases we all get every month. And this one guy said, "That's all I'm going to do. And if I go out of business, I'm going to go out of business." And he went out of business. I mean, this idea that you can change your approach that easily and that successfully, you got to understand there's a lot to it. The first time I saw somebody spending a lot of money on marketing is when I first witnessed this. A doctor spending $80,000 a month in marketing, doing $1 million a month in this big case, glitzy Hollywood restorative smile creation. And I thought, my gosh, you got to roll some pretty big dice to play in this game. And I think most people want to just do their free exams and x-rays, discounted cleaning dice, and occasionally bring in something good.
Yeah. Success rate, you're looking for on normal comprehensive new patients, you're looking at trying to get 70% to act on their dentistry. So excluding people that need nothing. So you want around 70% success rate with people spending on average, including the zeros. So 7 out of 10. So you divide 10, you should bring in 10,000. That's what you should do. Now you look at large cases, you're looking to close at least around 30%. And you should bring in on those between, well, starting at 3 to 4 grand, dividing out the zeros per new patient seen. It's better, by 3 times, obviously. And that's what the lure is. You're doing 3 times more dentistry on everybody at least. Those are the numbers that you got to shoot for. And that's how you know you're doing good. And that's why we know approximately the range that it takes in terms of time spent with a patient to achieve those numbers. We actually see it go backwards when you start spending more time.
Yeah, and you can become a file cabinet millionaire, as they once used to say. I don't know what, now it's a digital millionaire or something, but same idea. So
Yep.
good. I hope that people who are considering the input of their friends, some of them are launching down this path, that we're talking about, trying to get you to go down this path. And they haven't really found out what the outcomes are yet. Please take our advice. Let's talk about this.
All right. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.